Soyeon is an amazing breaker who works as a great alternative for Goto Ryuji in the Win team. And this is because, just like Goto Ryuji, her best artifact set is going to be the 8 set effect of Burning Greed for its up to 15% increase to crit rate to your whole entire team, because the Win team does definitely struggle with the amount of crit rate that it does have, so this is perfect for that team. As well as also it can provide a 30% increase into your weakness break effectiveness, so this will help your Soyeon break even quicker, but finally you can increase your whole entire team's crit damage by 30% as well once you have stacked all of the greed stacks 10 times. Then for when you want to use your Soyeon in Guild Boss with your Sun Mu as a supportive build, then you can just use your Chaotic Desire set on the 8 set effect bonus instead. Your main stats for Soyeon are up next, and hers are very simple and very easy, because for her helmet, her gloves, and also her ring, you'll want to go for additional attack as the best main stat, but if you can't quite get one that has good substats, then you can just use attack percent if you do need to. But for the final two most important ones, these are also very simple and very easy, because for the bracelet, you'll want to go for win damage percent, and then for the boots, you'll want to go for critical hit damage. Following all of your Soyeon's best main stats for her artifacts, we do of course have all of her best substats, and her two most important substats for you to prioritize are of course going to be additional attack as well as attack percent, because this is where all of her damage, not all of it, but most of it does come from. And then as well, crit rate up to 50% with some surplus, as well as getting your crit damage to be close to around 200% is what you want to go for. And finally, you have all of these other substats like defense pen and damage increase, which are also very, very good for your Soyeon. Your very best cores for Soyeon are up next, and when it comes to her mind piece, you have two very good options that you can choose, with the first and best option in my opinion is going to be the Ancient Wraith's Obsession for the 5% increase into your attack, but you can also use Eyes of the Watcher if you would like to. And then when it does come to her body piece, it doesn't really matter which one you go for, because none of them are really going to impact her performance too much, so in my opinion you can just use something like the Ancient Wraith's Right Hand for the 10% damage reduction. But finally, of course, we do have her spirit piece, and just like the body piece, it doesn't really matter which one you go for. However, she does use a lot of skills, so you can just use something like Teeth of the Watcher to reduce your skill mana point consumption by 12% in exchange for a decrease in your MP recovery rate by 10%. But of course, I couldn't talk about all of her best cores without also talking about all of the best main and substats for them, so when it comes to all of your best main stats for your cores, you'll want to use additional attack, defense, and HP as your best main stats, because they give the biggest power increase and stat increase. And finally, just like always when it comes to your substats, you basically just want to prioritize whatever kind of stats that you are missing from your artifacts, whether it be defense pen, damage increase, crit damage, crit rate, or anything else that you do want. Those are going to be the substats that you do want to prioritize. Following that, let's talk about all of your best advancements for Soyeon and what you should go for. So with Soyeon being a collab character, it does make her very, very limited, so if you do even plan on using her, you are definitely going to want to get her all the way to A5 for all of the enhanced effects that she can get to her Magnum Chain debuff, as well as also her Dis Battle debuff. But before I talk about that, let's talk about her first advancement, because what this can basically say is when Soyeon or one of her allies successfully puts the enemy into a break state, you can increase the break state duration by 3 seconds, which is very, very powerful, and is something that a lot of breakers just have nowadays. And as well, when her enhanced basic skills do hit, she can then trigger the Dis Battle effect, which at first does only increase your win damage taken by 1% and increases the enemy's regular damage taken by 1% and can stack up to 5 times. Her A2 is pretty good because it increases her break effectiveness by 20%, which will benefit all of her entire kit in breaking. Soyeon's A3 is actually very, very powerful because it benefits your Lennart as well as also your Songjino a huge amount, because when you enter the stage, you can apply the beat boost effect to your entire team, and it is a completely permanent buff, so that is very, very good. And also when the user loads their Magnum, if the third hunter in the team is of the wind elements, then that wind hunter can then regain 10% of their power gauge charge. But finally, when it comes to the beat boost effect that she can apply to your entire team, this can increase the user's ult skill damage by 15% and the user's wind damage by 10%. Then the penultimate advancement is very simple, because the wind damage of team members increases by 3% for every wind ally. But finally, we do have her A5, which like I said can increase the effects of her Magnum Chain buff, so it can now increase the user's core attack damage by 30%, restore 8 of their mana, and finally add 1.2% charge to their power gauge, with it stacking up to 6 times. But the only change into her Dis Battle debuff isn't with the actual damage taken percentages that she can apply, it's actually how many stacks that she can apply, with it now being able to stack up to 10 times, whereas previously it was only 5 times. Up next, we have your Soyeon skill level priority, and by far, in my opinion, her most important skill for you to level up is going to be her core attack remix shot, because this is her best source of regular damage and is also a very, very good source of break damage for her. So being able to increase the damage all the way up to 952.5% of her attack is going to be very, very important for you to level up. Then the next two most important skills you want to level up is going to be her first basic skill, Kill the Mic, as well as also her second basic skill, Hook and Chain. And these both do medium break damage, but But what Kill the Mic can do is it can also give herself super armor, so you cannot be interrupted through it, which is going to make it a very, very important skill for you to level up. And when it comes to Hook and Chain, her damage can go up to 3030%, with it dealing medium break damage. But of course, don't forget, when it comes to the rest of her skills, you can follow the in-game recommended skill level up order, which can give you all of the other information that you might need for your Soyeon. Like I said in the intro, your Soyeon will be a great alternative for Goto Ryuji's, and that basically means when it does come to your Soyeon's very best team, you'll want to use the likes of Sungjina as your main support, as well as also Lanots Neiman as your very best DPS. But let's start off by talking about why Sungjina is so good, and there's two reasons why, with the first one being that she does apply very powerful buffs like Wings of Freedom, as well as also Wind's Touch, and even very good debuffs like Unrecoverable. But once you get her to A5, you can trigger the Serenade Arrow Disruption, which basically turns her into a very powerful DPS within the teamfight game mode, making her a very, very important hunter for you to have. And then pairing those two up with Lanots Neiman, who is by far the best Wind DPS in the game, because all of his skills, like his ultimate skill, Toad Symphony, has a huge damage multiplier across the duration of his skill. And not to mention as well, he can work very, very well with your Sungjina, because he can get a damage increase when attacking an enemy with the Unrecoverable debuff. But finally, he can benefit himself and also your whole entire team with a very strong buff called Defensive Divination Circle that can grant your whole team super armor and increase their crit damage by 30%, and then also their defense by 30% as well. Oh yeah, and also Lanots can buff all of your team members as well through his A4, which can increase their HP by 8%, as well as also their defense by 14% for every Wind ally that you do have. If you have seen all of my other previous build guides for the rest of the Wind team members, then you will know that the best Shadow Authority leader is going to be Igris for his up to 8% critical hit rate increase, because like I said before, this team does struggle with crit rate, so Igris is definitely a must in my opinion. And then for the two other supportive shadows, my personal favourites are still going to be the likes of Serbi the Cerberus for his combustion debuff, as well as also using Bestie for her defense penetration increase. But you can also use these two for their debuffs if you would like to. Alright, let's finally talk about how you can best use your Soyeon to get the most out of her kit. And starting off, in order for you to get the most break damage out of her kit, you'll of course want to bring her in with her QTE skill to get all of the break damage from it. And then following that, when it comes to your main skill rotation, you'll want to first start off by using her second basic skill, which will then activate her enhanced first basic skill, which will be the next skill in your rotation, followed up by your regular core attack, because this will actually activate it. And then after that, the penultimate skill you use in your rotation is going to be her regular first basic skill, and then followed by that will be your enhanced core attack, because your Magnum will be completely full, so you can spam all of your core attacks as many times as you possibly can, dealing a load of break damage and also a good amount of damage at the very same time. And don't forget as well, if you do have your ultimate after you have spammed all of your core attacks, you can use that as well if you do have it as the very final skill in your rotation. So there you have it, that is my complete build guide for Soyeon in solo leveling Arise, so you can make her an amazing breaker, and she is definitely that, especially if you don't have Goto Ryuji fully built. But overall, if you did enjoy this video, or you just found it useful in general, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you all in the next video. Peace!